Hi, everyone. I'm Kelvin Red, and I want to welcome you to the Define Your Destiny video series. I was going to begin this video by telling you that I wanted to talk about some lessons. And I started thinking, I said, what I want to talk about today, they're not really lessons, they're more of reminders. I've been on hiatus for a while, and I've been thinking. I don't want to say I've been on hiatus. I've been in deep thought about how to handle and approach this video series. So, for instance, in my workshops, with the exception of emergenetics, I always tell most of my clients, I said, listen, what we talk about today, they're reminders. You already know this stuff. Everything I talk about is very practical. I'm a very practical individual. The things that I talk about, these are things that you learned when you were in elementary school. You learned them from your mom and your dad, your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, people in your sphere of influence, your little league baseball coach, your Sunday school teacher. So I'm not going to tell you anything that's remotely new. Again, they're just reminders, and I want to be able to just talk. I want to have a conversation, and I find it really interesting. And I actually posted this on Facebook a couple of years ago. I find it interesting now that I get paid to talk, because there was a point in time when I was in elementary school, I would get in trouble for talking because I would run my mouth a great deal. So in this video episode, I want to talk to you about 5 reminders. um, I've been reminded of things. There have been about 5 things that I've been reminded of over the past several months since I actually did another video. Okay, the last video, I should say. And I might be just a little bit nervous because there's nobody in my studio office right now, and I'm talking to a camera. And so I hope this resonates with someone that I'm speaking to, because this is, speaking into a camera, sometimes that can be very challenging, because when I do my workshops, I like to walk around. I like to walk the room. I like to make eye contact. I like to use my gut instincts and get a feel for what people are thinking or how they're feeling, through eye contact, body language, breathing patterns, and what have you. So here are the 5 reminders, things that I've been reminded of since we did our last video series. First of all, I realize that I don't have to be perfect. So when I'm sitting back thinking about how to do this channel, I also spent time watching a lot of YouTube videos of people who are doing what I'm doing, or people that I want to do what they're doing. And I watched a lot, and I recognized, there's some really casual videos out there. And that's pretty much what I want. I want this to be casual. I do like to have my notes. I'm a very process oriented person. I don't want to miss anything. So I agonized over this for months because I just want it to be perfect. And what I began to realize is that, hey, I'm Kelvin Red, right? My message is not for everyone. I get that. There are more than 327 million people in the United States, right? There's enough to go around. And with social media and the internet and YouTube and what have you, I've recognized that over the years, I have a percentage of people who follow me or view my videos on YouTube, even TikTok. They're from around the world. Okay, so it doesn't have my message doesn't resonate with everyone, but if it does, that's fine. I have 10,000 subscribers in my database who get my weekly blog. Okay, so a lot of times when I'm writing, whether I'm writing or I'm talking to people or what have you, it goes to those people because they've met me in my workshops. And there are people that I've met over the years. They say, "Oh, you got a blog or a newsletter? I'd like to sign up." That's great. But here I am. This is who I am. And a lot of times I talk about on feel. I, there was a time I'm being very structured and what have you. I would make a list of everything that I wanted to talk about. And regardless of what happened that week, I was going to talk about it in a video or on social media. And over the last several months, I have gotten to a place where it's more, I make the list, but I might scan it and go on feel, right? So go on feel on things that I'm feeling that day. And so these are the things that I'm feeling right now. I don't have to be perfect, and I don't profess to be perfect. You might look at me and think that I'm perfect, but I'm not. I'm a man of many flaws, and I'm a work in progress. Okay. Here's the next thing, the second reminder, and that is I'm not a cool dude. I started thinking about, I watch a lot of, I'm on YouTube and I'm studying other people, and I'm in workshops and I'm studying people, and I'm looking at Facebook and what have you. And I see folks, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't be cool like that. I'm not a cool guy. My dad did not raise me like that. When I was growing up, whenever I tried to be cool, my dad would always, my father was a high school basketball coach besides being a chemistry and physics teacher, and he was that one of those last breeds of guys like John Thompson, yeah, Bobby Knight on occasion. I see Nick Saban going on a rant every now and then, and a friend of mine, he sent me an Instagram message, a compilation of Nick Saban, the head football coach at the University of Alabama, and Nick was just, every segment he was going on a rant, and I was like, I don't have a problem with that. That's how I was brought up in the gym. So whenever I stepped out of line or tried to be arrogant, my father, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in one of the reminders. Whenever I was arrogant, my father would just slap me down, not physically, but he'd tell me, so, what are you being arrogant for? You have nothing. You have no job, you have no education, you're living with me rent free. So I'm not the cool guy. I'm the guy that comes on Facebook and I try to show my vulnerabilities, okay, because that's how I was raised. I'm not like a lot of other guys. That's not me. I was having an identity crisis at one time when I was coming on social media. Like, how am I supposed to present? And it took me a while, because I was like, there's the stage Kelvin, okay? There's the workshop Kelvin, but then there's also the Kelvin who talking to you right now one to one. All right, so I'm not the cool guy. Okay, so if you follow me on Facebook or social media, I'm going to show my vulnerabilities. That's just who I am. I'm not the guy who watches somebody's page and says, well, I'm not going to like that, I'm not going to comment on that because I'm too cool and that kind of thing. No, that's not me. That's not me. I'm just plain old Kelvin Red. And as I was saying in the previous reminder, my message isn't targeted to one audience. I know that right now in the social media world, they like to tell you to create a customer avatar. And when you create that avatar, that's the person you're supposed to be talking to. Like, you're supposed to list their title, their demographics, where they work, what they do, their hobbies, their interests, all these kinds of things. Well, my message is far reaching because I've had a lot of experience in my lifetime. You want to talk about sports, particularly basketball? I look, if I had decided to go into a career as a sports analyst in basketball, doing commentary or something like that, I could have done it because I grew up with the master. My father was one of the best basketball coaches, high school, pro, or whatever, in this nation. All right. And people in Phoenix City will tell you that is the case. Let me just tell you something. My father never got out coached. Out talented? Yeah. Out coached? No, he didn't get out coached. He was too analytical for that. So I learned a lot. And so I'll even talk about that at some point. If you want to talk about sports and organizational behavior, to me, there's no better example from an organizational behavior standpoint than sports and how it's run and how they make decisions. So to me, I can talk about that. You want to talk about leadership? Okay, fine, we can do that. I spent 13 years at Synovus Financial Corp when it was voted the best place to work in America. Okay, I was promoted to assistant vice president. A lot of times in my workshops, I come from the perspective of the employee, because when it comes to leadership, I think to whom much is given, much is required. I really believe that. However, I've been in numerous leadership positions in my life, so I can come from it from that perspective as well. Okay, so when it comes to leadership, I know what good leadership is, and I know what good leadership is not. Okay, you want to talk about self-awareness? I worked at the Pastoral Institute. Okay, Pastoral Institute, a counseling and education center, a Samaritan center. That's where I worked. All right. And so when you work, and I'm going to mute all these clicks here because I'm getting some. But when you work for a best place to work organization or the Pastoral Institute or what have you, you understand the value of self-awareness. Okay. And so when I talk about self-awareness a great deal, do you realize, and I've got more reminders I want to talk about because I'm feeling it right now. I've got some leaders, I've had clients that I have worked with, And the leadership was afraid to do follow-up because they were not on that journey towards self-awareness. They were afraid they were going to be seen. And I'm thinking, that's the purpose of leadership, to show all your flaws and vulnerability. That's what makes you special. Everybody comes from a different area of life. Okay. It's how you show up in the world. That's what makes you special. So self-awareness, only 10 to 15% of society is self-aware. So for me, the people I'm talking to, it becomes a numbers game. Like I have to throw out a net and hope, like if I'm in a room with 100 people, I hope 10 to 15% of the people get it, right? Because not everybody's going to get it. I understand. All right. You want to talk about marriage? Been there twice, not going back. I'm in my second marriage. I love it. I'm not going to a third. There's not going to be a second divorce. So I know everything you want to know about marriage. I know what it takes to have a good marriage. I know what it takes to have a bad marriage. Okay. You want to talk about divorce? Been there once, not going there again. Okay. I know what it's like. All right. You want to talk about education? All right. My father was valedictorian of his high school class. He was number 2 in his college class. My father taught at Central High School. He was the first African American, uh, he was one of 3 first African Americans hired at Central High School. He was the only chemistry and physics teacher in our school system. I grew up with a highly intelligent left brain individual. My mom worked in the school system. My sister works in the school system now. My aunt used to teach. She's retired in the school system. Okay. You want to talk about education? I've got 2 degrees. Okay. I've got one in history, and I've got one in I've got another degree in organizational behavior and management, and I'm working on a PhD. Oh, that's another story. That is one time consuming thing. It's not hard to work on a PhD. You don't have to be brilliant. You got to be disciplined. And my dad told me that a long time ago. All right. So I'm really working on my discipline in that area of my life. And here's another thing. I've been on the school board. Okay. So I know what it takes to run a school system. My message is far reaching because my experience is far reaching. Okay. Here's reminder number 3. I've got some tremendous guests lined up. Matter of fact, when I was logging on, getting ready to prepare for this, there's a guest that I cannot wait to have on this show. I can't wait. And this person lives so close to me, and I can't wait to announce it. But this person has done some huge things on the world stage. And hopefully we'll get them on here within the next couple of weeks. There are some tremendous people that I have met in my life. Tremendous people. And they're doing outstanding work in the field of leadership and organizational behavior. And they're on the journey towards self-awareness. All right. They're doing outstanding work. And they're in small towns, some of them in bigger cities, but most are in small towns, and the world doesn't even know who they are. And I want to share their story because to me, I think they're remarkable. All right. I will say this, though. There was one individual that I really and truly wanted to interview, and I don't think it would have been a problem. And that was Olympian Harvey Glance. And Harvey Glance passed away a couple of months ago. And I saw his sister walking around Moon Lake here in Phoenix City. It's a place where, everybody likes to go and walk in the mornings and the evenings and what have you. And I saw his sister, and when I passed her, we spoke, we said hi and that kind of thing. But when I passed, I was thinking, in my head, I want to interview Harvey Glance, and I needed to get in touch with him. And I waited and waited and waited. And a couple of months later, he passed away. So that's why this is one of the reasons I've created this. There's been this sense of urgency to come on here and just get this message out there. Hopefully it'll help someone. Okay. And so here's the fourth reminder. Seek wise counsel. Seek wise counsel. I think that is so extremely important. I've gone through a lot. The decade of the 2010s, that decade was brutal to me. It was absolutely brutal. And I've got another video. You want to see it? I talk about all that stuff. But I challenge you to seek a therapist, right? I don't have the data, and I don't like getting on and not having ready-made data. Whether I'm speaking in a workshop, giving a keynote address, I don't like doing it. But I would imagine that most Americans need a therapist, right? I'm going to do some research on that, and we'll talk about that later. But I would imagine most Americans need therapists, and I have one, and I love her to death. I mean, she has helped me out through so much. And I think one of the keys about seeking therapy, and of course, this is one I've been guilty of, and that is you want to seek them in good times as well as bad. All right. You want to seek them when things are relatively good so that when you have those bad times, you can handle it a little bit better. But a lot of people just want to be heard. They got to get things off their chest. And I would encourage you, if you're going through something, if your parents have gone through a divorce, maybe you're alienated from one of your parents, maybe you got a problem at work, whatever the case is, maybe there's a spousal problem, whatever. I challenge you to seek therapy. I challenge you for that. Okay? Try to get some answers. Sometimes you got to get away from the people in your sphere of influence. Because sometimes, whether you realize it or not, sometimes those people do not have your best interest at heart. Okay? Some of them do. Some of them know how to love you. But what you got to keep in mind about a therapist is skilled in behavioral sciences. Okay? They're looking at it, behavioral science. They're looking at everything. They're looking at body contact, eye movement, They're looking at body movement, eye contact, breathing patterns, all of these things. All right. Grandma, granddad, and mama and them, they don't know that. They don't, all they want to do is they want to tell you that they love you based upon their experiences. And that could be a good thing, but sometimes that can be a bad thing. All right. And so here's the fifth reminder: the book of Proverbs. All right. So last week I put out this video. It was a voiceover, and it was on the book of Proverbs. When I was younger, when I was in my teens, I was like 18, 19 years old. I was really struggling in college. I mean, I was having a tough time in college, in life, and I was depressed. I really was. I was depressed. And I think it was my first year in college, my first year. And my grandmother, she came to visit us at my parents' house one weekend. And I was there, and she and I started talking. And she started telling me about King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. And it resonated with me, the practicality of it. Because Proverbs is about wisdom, okay? Regardless of your religion, it is a practical guide for living. Think about it. It tells you the importance of waking up early. It tells you the importance of hard work. It tells you the importance of how to treat people, how to treat your spouse, how to be an adoring and lovable woman, how to be a strong man, how to take care of your family. It tells you everything. And so I'm thinking, all these leadership books, painfully so, mine included, all these behind me, the practicality, the only thing that's different are the stories, right? Only thing different are the stories. Most leadership books, they tell you about how to treat people, the importance of hard work, rising early, eating the proper foods, those kinds of things. And we forget that. And so lately, I've just been praying for wisdom. To me, the book of Proverbs is kind of like the fundamentals of sports. You ever go to a football game, and before the game, basketball, baseball, you see the teams out there warming up before the game? It's Jim Blanchard, the former chairman and CEO of Synovus. He said, the blocking and tackling. They're out there doing all those things, shooting layups. You see the golfers out there hitting putts, those kinds of things. The batters out there taking batting practice. That's what the book of Proverbs is. The book of Proverbs is just the fundamentals. It's the fundamentals of life. And if you master the fundamentals, because my father used to have basketball practice, he wouldn't scrimmage. There were times he did not scrimmage. It was all about the fundamentals. Can you make a layup? Can you get in a defensive stance? Can you run a fast break? Can you shoot a free throw? Can you dribble? The lost art of just simply passing the basketball, right? A lot of guys don't know how to pass, all right? The ladies are really good at it. But a lot of guys, they don't know how to pass. But that's another topic. Don't get me, don't get me started about sport. But it's the fundamentals. That's what it's about. And if you're walking around with hate in your heart, if your heart is filled with anger and venom, then you need to seek counsel and you need to seek wisdom, because there's no reason in the world for any individual to walk around with hate. None. And we've all, and look, let me just say this. There are about 3 or 4 people in this world that I've tried to avoid. And so I've worked on that my whole life. Like, work on this. Don't have hate. Don't have it. This stuff affects your body. I was talking to a good friend of mine yesterday. This person is a counselor, a minister, and I'm going to have them on this show at some point. And they were just telling me about, it's great to have a friend who's a therapist, right? I'm not trying to get free services, but the practicality and the wisdom with which they speak, you can't beat that. I learned that at the Pastoral Institute. I learned that. I will be forever indebted for my 10 years at the PI. I practically became a practical psychologist because I learned so much. Okay. All right. So this is Kelvin Redd. I hope you really enjoyed today's video. If so, please like it. Please, if you want to add some comments below, please add some comments. Share this video with people in your sphere of influence. You can follow me on your social media platform of choice on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. I try to be consistent. Sometimes my schedule gets out of whack. Like it's in July right now. I don't have to travel again until the end of the month. And so when August hits, I'm going to try my best to be as consistent as I possibly can. All right. This is Kelvin Redd. Remember, define your destiny.